I have cracked the code on how to make the perfect macaron. So I'm going to post the recipe in the description. But here I am measuring my almond flour. And you guys, I kid you not, measure. Do not skip that step. Don't guess. Don't go off of cups. Measure, okay? So use your scale and measure everything beforehand. Get all of your materials that you need. And so everything is ready to go, down to the piping bag, the pans, everything. So right here, I weighed my egg whites and make sure there are no yolks in there, but you are going to mix it on a medium speed, and you're going to wait till you see how it's like all nice and bubbly, and then you're going to add your cream of tartar. And so now what we're looking for, again, on a medium to, I guess you can do kind of high, you are going to the high speed, and so you're going to whip it until you get this beautiful peak. So you're going to stop your mixer, make sure it pokes up just like that. So now we are ready to add not only the sugar, but the food coloring. So I was going for a dusty rose color. And so I did use the Satin Ice dusty rose color so that it was perfect. And it was just one drop and it was that vibrant. So make sure that you're not using so much food coloring. So right here, as my meringue is whipping, I got my piping bag ready so that everything is ready to go once everything is nice and set. So I'm checking here. And so do you see how it curls like that? You don't want it to curl. And so even though it's really frustrating, you guys, I put it on speed 6 to 7, and you just have to be patient, and you want to make sure that you don't over whip it. But do you see how it spikes up like that perfectly? That's what you're looking for. So now I'm putting in my almond flour and my powdered sugar, and I'm just sifting it. Do not skip this step because that is absolutely crucial. You will ruin your meringue if you do not sift your almond flour and your powdered sugar. And so right here, all I'm doing is mixing my meringue with my powdered sugar and almond flour mixture. And so you guys, all I do is I'm scraping around the bowl and I'm trying to look for this figure 8. You want it to run off of your spatula, but this is where so many people go wrong. You do not want to overmix this. And so what I'm looking for is, as your batter is running off of your spatula, do you see right here how I am making a figure 8 and it's not breaking? That's where you stop. I kid you not, I swear, like when you just mix it 1 or 2 more times in the bowl, it completely messes up your meringue. So if your meringue is running out of your piping bag, like it's like completely liquid, you completely overmixed. Stop, throw it away, and try again, because I've tried that so many times in the past, and when you bake them, they just spread. It's a hot mess. So you do want it on the thicker side, but if you undermix it, you guys, it completely ruins them too. So you really have to find that happy medium with that figure 8 method. It works every single time. And so when it runs off your spatula, you just want to make sure that you do that figure 8 and it doesn't break. So once you pipe on all of your shells, I did do the bigger size. And so you are going to pat your pan on the table just a few times lightly, and then this is where I'm just taking a little pin and getting all of those air bubbles out, and then I put that to the side to rest. And so now I'm finishing up the rest of my shells, and again, because I didn't do the smaller shells, I didn't have as many, so I wanted them all to bake in the center. So pat the pan on the counter again, and then you're going to take your pin and you're going to get all those air bubbles out or any imperfections, and then you're going to leave it alone for about 30 minutes. I kid you not, don't do it any sooner than that. So the other thing I was going to say, if you are planning on doing more than one color, I am personally not comfortable with doing 2 batches at the same time, because that means one batch will be sitting longer than the other. And so as my shells are hardening and just resting before I place them in the oven to create that beautiful coat, I do make another batch. And so that way, while I'm making that batch, the others are resting, and then I'll put those in the oven. And while the first batch is in the oven, my other ones are resting. I hope that makes sense, but truthfully, I'm not too comfortable enough to be able to whip up a few batches at a time. But truthfully, if you get more comfortable with them, go for it. You can experiment. And unfortunately, this is kind of those trial and error things. And so you have to figure out what works for you. And so this is what works for me. So it's just rinse and repeat. And so then I was able to check my shells to make sure that they are not tacky. And so they were ready for the oven. And there they are. They are beautiful. You bake them at 315 for 16 minutes. And you rotate the pan halfway through. And so now it's the reveal of the beautiful cookies. And so now all I'm doing is finding their friend, and they're going to match, and they're going to be beautiful. One thing I will say is let them rest completely until they're all the way cooled. And then do you see how I lifted up my mat to make sure that I am pulling them off? I lifted a little too quickly on that one, so I did have a little fail, but that's okay. It was not anything extreme. And so I did lift up my mat again till I can peel them off. And again, the same thing. I got a little cocky to pull up straight forward instead of on an angle. And so I had two little guys that are just going to be best friends now. And so honestly, this is such a fun process once you get the hang of it. But you guys, I'm going to tell you right now that I have attempted these cookies over the years. I swear, like a dozen times at least. And then I finally started getting the hang of it, started getting the hang of the meringue and all the stuff that you just want to be able to get the hang of to nail these cookies. So I whipped up a big batch of my buttercream. No, you do not need to whip up that much. I just had to do it for some cakes, but I made my buttercream. And so for the pink ones, I was just doing buttercream. So you can just pipe it straight on like that, like a big glob, but you want to make sure that it doesn't go all the way to the edge, because when you push down, it will push them out. You do not want to do that. So I just did like the little donut ring around it. And so that way it was filled and it didn't push out the sides. So this one, I am doing buttercream on the outside, and then I made my homemade raspberry filling. And so then I filled them with, so I put the buttercream around it just like that. And then I took my piping bag and I filled it with my raspberry, and I was able to pipe that in as well. And the other step that I want to emphasize is that once you fill your macaron cookies and then put their little friend on top, put them in the fridge before you put them in any bags or any boxes. But if you are planning on making these, they are better the next day. So put them in a sealed container and let them sit in the fridge for a full 24 hours, and they are absolutely delicious. I hope you make them.